in iFlex, which became Oracle, and also in digital. So I've spent my last 34 years in a variety of jobs and across the globe, working across almost like, multiple countries, more than 30 countries that I've worked in. So that's been my kind of experience. Right.
Thank you very much. We'll also come back to that decision to stick to the career. You left and you came back. So Agnes.
Thank you for the question and thank you for having us. Well, for me it was probably a little bit different. I grew up in a very small village in the Austrian countryside, and I dreamt of having an impact on the world, making the world a better place to live. And the way I could think about doing this was actually related to business, economics. That's also what I basically then did at university. And only when I had the chance of doing an internship at IBM, I did it for the money, to be honest, but when I actually started there, I realized technology probably will have a much bigger impact on the well-being of societies, of communities, of people in the world than economics and think tanks will ever have. So that's how I got into technology, and I loved it, I embraced it from then, and basically did a change from the career subject I had originally planned to pursue. Yeah, and here I am 20 years later, many great opportunities later, having worked in different continents. 2 children later, actually experiencing the vast opportunity in the tech industry, and having been offered job roles, 8 months pregnant with my first child, and having been offered job roles when I just had given birth to my second child. So I'm really enjoying the flexibility that IBM as a company and the tech industry overall provides. That's how I got started, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, actually, Agnes. Without getting too much into it, because this is a very familiar theme in any discussion about women in the workplace, but I think it seems that it's really key about supportive policies in a company to support this whole process of women either giving birth, childcare, flexible work times. How important do you really think it is? It seems to have been critical for you.
Yeah, flexibility is important, but for me personally, even more important was having the opportunities to grow and really proceed on my career path, and not being part of an assumption that meant, oh, she's going to slow down for a while now.
Because she had a kid, yeah.
I had the choice to either progress further, take on bigger challenges, more complex roles, or maybe stay where I am, but I had a choice. And that made a very big difference to me, and is a reason why I stayed and will stay.
Interesting. It seems that all of you, looking at your careers, you've had kind of dream runs and star trajectory, but actually I presume there were some extremely tough moments. And I'd just like to ask each of you about, perhaps the biggest challenges or setbacks you faced in relation to our overall topic today. Aileen, you're
Yeah, maybe
nodding.
I can start. I'd say the one word, I know people talk about confidence, but for me, it's more about the insecurity. Getting into tech, the actual role itself is not the issue. Getting to the higher levels starts to bring an increasing level of a confidence problem and an insecurity, right? So when I took on this role as a country general manager, no matter how much credentials I had, and I knew I had the capabilities, you'd still be insecure. Because you'd be among many male CEOs, tough on the job, long time, etc. But, the long and short of it, I think, is that you have to stick to your guns. You have to know what you want, what you know you can do, and be comfortable with it. Don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about the noise. And you'll be surprised how many will actually help you thrive in the new role, whether in IBM or in the industry, because women help other women succeed.
That's very interesting. You've been known to mentor a lot of women in the Philippines, and I believe you have a very high proportion of women in key roles.
That's correct. Even for the senior leadership, this is why part of my advocacy was when I was asked to help women in the C-suite go up, operationalize it. Some of them in the networks are here. I had to say yes in my busy schedule because it's your time to give back.
Right. Thank you. And Guy, how about you? The biggest setback or challenges in your diverse career?
I would say no setback, definitely, at least from where I look at it. Challenges have been there, right? Not that without challenge, there is no thrill in having a good career also, right? That's the way I would describe it. Challenges come in many ways. Number one, you come from I started my career in 1987, right? And you come from India, you're going global, and obviously you have to prove yourself continuously to say that, right, you do know this and you have the mastery in what you have done, right? So that's a continuous challenge for some time till you establish yourself in the industry as a person known to be on what you are and what you are known for, right? So that's that kind of challenges. And second, I would say that's related to, it's a dichotomy on whether you specialize or you generalize, right? If you're a general management and you want to go up in your career in pure general management areas, or you want to specialize and be in your specialized area. That's the kind of challenge that, it's a dichotomy, I would call it as more than a challenge, but that I have definitely faced. Given that I do have all of my experience, I would say at least 30 years of my 35 years experience in financial services. Right. So that's the way I put it.
And the biggest setback for you? I mean, did you have a moment where...
No, I never had a setback.
Wow.
I'm a very confident person and I'm a very passionate person with my work, and I really believe that I can go do it. That's it. Absolutely.
Hooray. That's great. What's your secret?
My passion is my secret.
Right, okay, you've all heard that. More passion. Agnes, over to you.
Yeah, I think for me being not only often one of the few women on the table, but also throughout the career often being, amongst the youngest at the table, it's been a lot about confidence, like Eileen already mentioned. And I had a great female mentor years ago who told me that, it's not about building up confidence to do a job role or a task that I thought was extremely challenging. It's about building the confidence that it's okay to fail, I'll recover from it, and I'm gonna move on. That really was for me fundamental, and from now on I decided I would not be worried about can I do a job role or can I fulfill a challenging task, but I would focus on getting resilient and allow myself to fail and focus on the capability within myself to actually learn from it. So that was a process and a journey I was on, and I'm glad I took the journey because now I have the confidence to take on very complex roles, and I know I'll fail sometimes, but I can recover from it. I can go on and move on and thrive.
Well, you talk about being offered a more challenging position 2 weeks after you gave birth. I mean, did it ever occur to you, maybe I should just step out of it and focus on motherhood for a while, or you didn't? Was that an issue, or?
It did occur to me when I looked at my husband's face when I told him. Of course, you think about it.
Is he in tech too?
He's in tech too, yeah. And it's a great asset to have a partner who understands the tech industry and the opportunity of it. Of course, it did occur to me, and I was aware it's a big jump and it's a leap of faith, but I don't know, for me the excitement of creating something new and being part of creating a new IBM really just overtakes, I think, within 10 seconds of doubt and worry. So I think it's following the passion that gives the energy
I was going to say that.
To go through with it, really.
It's obvious that's the common feature amongst you all. So actually I'd really like to turn to some of the lessons you've learnt. I mean, I wonder if you could share with us what you've learnt about diversity, the big issue here today, and management, from being in the tech field in Asia. You don't all have to answer the question, but I thought, Agnes, you might also want to contrast and compare the situation in Asia with Europe, as you had quite a role for a while in Germany and other European states, and I think began with Central Europe or Eastern Europe. And whether women face more or fewer hurdles in the West compared to Asia? I mean, that statistic I mentioned is quite surprising that, you know, tech in Southeast Asia, actually, women do better.
And I can see that also from personal experience. So generally, it's a fact of life that we do not have enough women in the tech industry. Globally, it's 28%. And if we think about technology shaping our future, we really need to be very conscious of the fact as to what do we need to do to motivate more women to step into that field. Because if we want to tackle challenges like a climate crisis or a pandemic, we need women in tech. So 28% globally is generally a far too low number. But it's interesting that there are regional differences. So while on the board level, we see Europe does quite well, in the tech industry, it's actually not the case. Only 17% of the tech industry in Germany, for example, is women. And it's 32% in Southeast Asia. So there's really a great foundation to build from.
Really double.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now we need to make sure that the women also feel encouraged to take on leadership roles and more leadership roles and grow up to a board level going forward. But the foundation here in Southeast Asia is actually fantastic.
That's interesting. And Aileen, what's your biggest, lessons in diversity and management based on your experience?
Yeah, I think it's important. We see this a lot in tech. It is one thing to get the talent inside, which is, the women there, but getting them to thrive and really stay on the job, sustain it. What's important really is the clarity of communication. If we in IBM were able to operationalize it, we have to be clear at the point of acquiring talent that this is what we do. These are the opportunities you can get. And I always say, don't believe me. Call anybody you can possibly call so that you know it's real and it's actually operationalized. Then you get them to understand, oh, it's real. Oh, it's really across different roles. And this thing, what the return to work, I'm sure many of you have been experiencing this. Some drop out because you do not have the flexibility. So if we in our organizations actually have the flexibility, we gotta say it. And we have to show why they must believe us. So I think the clarity of communication and then the roles that are really across different business units, whether traditional roles or not, the role models need to be out there.
Oh, interesting.
Share it. Yeah, share your story.
Right, thank you. And Guy, you also have extensive international experience as well as India, and I think India is a really interesting situation, but that's a whole panel in itself. Maybe you could, though, share any experience or key lesson about this whole issue of diversity and managing it in your current position, but
Absolutely.
also...
I think hiring right from the beginning, right, at the entry level, is very, very important. And without that, you don't build the future leaders or the future of the organization itself, number one. Number two, I think the organization has to also get to a very clear state that it's not just a number or it's not just a, theme. But in my experience, I always feel that the moment we recognize that it is essential to have women and the women power at the table and